So from what I remember, the first episode, I used the tape on the TV, I picked up the glove, and I took that policeman's phone number. And then the second one, I punched the bully in the face, because Antoine stood up for himself. Alisa the fox, I went with her. Trying to remember. And then I stood up to him again. I told him to F off. That's a choice. You can literally... He gives you this mask to wear to like humiliate you. You even do that, or you could just tell him to F off. And he gets beat up, and in the video I was like, oh, I feel bad now. And then I'm hanging out with the bullies because they're now my friends. But then they disappear, and Alisa the fox is there with me, and she takes me to this abandoned shed area where these missing kids are supposedly at. And some stuff just goes down. It's insane. Right, is the sound all good? Turn up the music just a bit. But yeah, it's gonna be really fun. Oh, it's there, thank God. I was so worried I'd have to go through it all again. Okay, let's go! I'm so excited! Episode 3. On End, the wolf's grey fur will stand. Oh yeah, and the bully went missing. He's the one who hated Babarin. You think he did it? I've heard he's a weirdo. The warm farewells Rumka and Biasha shouted at the back of fleeing Semyon echoed inside my head. Oh, the language is in Russian, for those who don't know much about Tiny Bunny. So the language is in Russian, but you can pick to read it in English. Was Rumka serious about his threats? Would he chase his former friend deep into the forest and then what? Kill him? Just like that? No, that can't be right. I hurriedly rubbed my glasses. The glasses! Semyon was clutching them in his fist while trying to escape the barrage of kicks and slaps from his friends. Former friends by now. And in just a couple of hours, this lost item was lying on the ledge of my window. It was hard to imagine that Sioma suddenly got guilty conscience and returned my glasses in such a strange way. I was shocked but kept walking toward the classroom, accompanied by nasty whispers all around me. That photo still stood before my eyes. Semyon has gone missing. Semyon is gone. His fat fingers will never get to my throat. His signet ring won't smash into my chin. He'll never humiliate me again. Wasn't that what I wished for? On the other hand, did I really wish Semyon to become a murky stain on the notice board? He was still someone's son, or a grandson, and he went through the same struggles as me. Did I really wish for my unseen companion to dispatch him in such a brutal fashion? I didn't know the answer. Or was I just scared of it? Paulina! Nonetheless, school still had something nice about it. Paulina, the girl with a violin, was like a mountain spring. Well, like well water that you gulp down, pressing your lips against the zinc outer ring of a bucket and can't ever get enough. What if I make her one of the characters in the story I'll draw? Excuse me. The protagonist will save her from terrifying monsters. As soon as I thought of monsters, a bunch of my classmates slid down the rails, smirking like the xenomorphs from the Alien. I immediately felt lava of fear rive down my stomach. I didn't want to cross paths with Ronka and Biasha after what happened yesterday, especially since Semyon suddenly went missing. I entered the classroom and went toward the last row. All of the chatter suddenly died down, so I walked there in complete silence. It felt like my classmates pushed and poked me with their stares. They carefully observed my every move. I stared at the desk with a huge pile of library textbooks on top, my fists clenched. It felt like I was the one who disappeared in that snowy forest, and my desk was finally used for something worthwhile. Semyon's empty chair stood in front of me. The chair that once belonged to Vova was gathering dust somewhere in another classroom. I looked at the portraits of classical writers. My eyes stopped on Esenin's photo. Last year, I was tasked with learning any poem, and Dad suggested I learn one about the dog Jim, written by Esenin. I don't remember all the stanzas by now, but the last one was somehow deeply ingrained in my memory. I'm sure she'll come here, in my absence. Please catch her eye. Go kiss her hand for me. For all my real or fancied errors, asking forgiveness of her in humility. See, I remember to look before doing other things. An old, cheap slide projector. I called this model a tank because it looked like one. There was a time when I had a lot of cool fairy tales that we used to watch with Dad in complete darkness. I remember Little Raccoon and One Who Sits in the Pond, Kipling's Mowgli, and many others. I was immediately swept away by the memory of the projector's hum, of its hot casing, of its bright rays hitting the wall, turning it into a screen. It's a pity that the school's slides were mostly about minerals and PSAs. And I think there was one more, wasn't there? Yes. Every boy my age I knew had something like this in his arsenal. Powder firecrackers that blow up with a very loud sound. Especially inside an archway. It is said they are produced in China, and that a single one of them can blow your fingers off if you light it up and clutch it in your hand. Especially the black Corsair type. They won't be enough to blow up plastic soldiers, but when it comes to stuff made out of plaster, they should work. Yep, that's everything. After a moment of hesitation, I sat down at Baburin's desk, the place where I was supposed to be assigned by Lilia Pavlovna at first. The chatter resumed as if someone just unpaused a movie.
Бабушка Бабурина такой кипиш устроила, когда он домой не явился. Сначала в школу прибежала, потом ментов вызвала. Да-да-да. Это он.
She's a bitch. just in my chair, because it looked like I was far back. Katya snuck a cunning glance at me, then leaned into her neighbour and whispered something. Girls from the second row also leaned in. She said she shared something with them too. Whispers, nods. I kept catching her stare on myself. Her neighbour stared too. The whole class was watching me. It was like they felt the need to watch me because they were searching for traces of blood on my fingers. I wanted to defend myself and shout, "Guys, listen, I'm innocent." Romka gave me a heavy, worried look. He was probably as stunned by Semyon's disappearance as everybody else. But then he directed his stare straight at my face. It felt like he was about to point his finger at me and shout at the top of his lungs. "Everyone, look! Baburin snatched his glasses yesterday, and now he has them back! Murderer!" But he remained silent, as if there was nothing special at all about my glasses. I may be going mad, but I think Romka knows something. He knows something, but he won't tell me what. But it was also possible he didn't care at all, just like everyone else. Then Rumka shifted his eyebrows in suspicion and stared at Katya, as if informing her that he didn't believe a word she said. I wanted to believe that Rumka would take my side. And Biasha, who sat sprawled in his chair, with his chin pressed against the table too. But they were silent. A terrifying thought flashed in my mind. Those two could easily betray me, push me off the cliff, just like they did with Semyon. As if looking for protection, I clutched the ruler until my hand hurt.
Не надо быть Коломбо, чтобы догадаться. Кто на Бабурина зуб имел? Кто его вчера ударил? Поиздевался, а после...
The metal ruler fell out of my weak fingers. It hit the floor with a jingle, and that made the other kids shudder. Oh, Jesus. Katya bit her tongue and squirmed nervously. Chairs scraped against the floor. My classmates moved away from me, closer to the exit toward the teacher's desk. So, everyone pretty much fears us now. I was not the only one to catch wind of that change. Ronka and Biasha looked around and winced in contempt. It's good that they were clearly on my side.
Да прикуси ты! Бабурин, небось, с бабкой посрался и дымил. Скоро найдется.
Найдется, ага. Во овраге со вспоротым брюхом.
I gulped. Oh jeez. I imagined Sioma. Sorry, let me reread that again. I imagined Sioma on a snowy blanket, his face, white like a fish belly, split down the middle by the crevice of his mouth, snowflakes falling on his glassy eyes and filling up his throat. See? I could almost hear his condescending tone. It's all your fault. Of course, Semyon did me a favour by disappearing. Thanks to him, my classmates now stared at me in awe. Was I meant to say Semyon? Because, it said Sioma. I'll double check. But that was only one side of the coin. What if I'll have to repay that favour soon? The door creaked. Paulina entered the classroom. I straightened up in a hurry so she wouldn't see me looking like a scared critter. Paulina found me with her eyes, gave me a short nod, and went to her seat. Katya rushed to her neighbours again, like a lab rat that saw a treat, and started whispering, switching her gaze between me and Paulina. Messages on pieces of paper started jumping around the classroom. The ringer's trill announced the start of the class.
Так, заканчиваем бардак. Дети, встаньте. Петров, тебя это тоже касается.
Lilia Pavlovna went to her desk, followed by a policeman in a uniform. It was the man that visited us yesterday. It was the man that visited us just recently, tall, and his stare so sharp you could get cut on it.
Здрасте.
Здравствуйте!
Садитесь. Познакомьтесь, это старший лейтенант Константин Владимирович Тихонов. Он задаст вам несколько вопросов и проведет небольшую лекцию по безопасности.
Лучше лекция от милиционера.
The class livened up. Talking to a policeman was way better than studying. I, on the other hand, was ready to sit through hundreds of hours of Russian literature just to escape the lieutenant's oppressive stare. His brown eyes felt around the classroom, looking for me. Hair stood on the back of my neck, and an icicle had lodged in my gut.
А правда, что Бабурина маньяк убил?
Екатерина, ну-ка цыц. Вопросы здесь взрослые задают.
Yeah, shush.
Просто нам всем страшно. Может, убийца бродит где-то рядом? Или сидит у нас за спиной?
Her sly stare was directed at me. Tikhonov stepped in between the rows of desks and started walking at an excruciatingly slow pace, brushing his fingers against the chairs he passed by. Some of the students almost broke their necks following his movements. That's how a crowd of kimonos would gleefully anticipate a public execution in the Middle Ages. And he just walked, getting closer and closer to me. I gritted my teeth to stop myself from screaming. Calm down. Breathe. You didn't kill or kidnap anyone. He already knew the answer to his question, but the policeman still asked in a stern voice.
Петров Антон?
Да.
Встань, Петров.
My muscles turned to stone. I got up, unglued myself from the chair. I felt like I could hear all my joints creak in the process. I only wished that Paulina wouldn't turn around and see the grimace of horror on my face. Thanks for the follow, welcome in. If only I could be somewhere far away, in the forest, digging myself into a snow pile, rolling up into a ball there. The officer stared at me as if he was about to lock a pair of handcuffs on my wrists. I wonder how cold these bracelets are to the touch. I imagined myself getting jailed and put into a juvenile detention center where tens of Semyons would constantly harass me.
Я ничего не знаю. Я тут ни при чем.
А тебя никто и не обвиняет. Пока что.
I was going to say for now. Only then I noticed a file that said case number in his hand. It had a grey cover made from rough carton. It flopped onto the desk like a guillotine blade that slid down on someone's neck. With a measured motion, Tikhonov opened the file, still studying me with his gaze. I caught a glimpse of documents and photos. They showed prints on the snow. They looked like animal prints.
Ты с Семеном Бабуриным общался?
Я знал его всего один день.
Все знают, Петров его ненавидел.
Oh, sit down and shut up. I turned red. You ugly bitch. Couldn't have said it better myself. I wanted to sink my teeth into Katya's face and chew out her cheek. Instead, I replied with the calmest voice I could muster.
Мы повздорили вчера. Но он первый начал.
It's best to be honest, really.
Я его ударил.
Сильно?
Да нет, так.
I waved my hand indecisively. Tikhonov looked at my fist as if he was surprised that I managed to hit the big kid from the photo. Surprisingly, Lilia Pavlovna came to my rescue.
Бабурин проблемный подросток. С шилом кое-где. Сам ко всем лез.
True. The officer replied with a meaningful nod and fished out a notebook out of the file. Algebra.
Это твое?
Is this yours? I averted my gaze. It was a math notebook with my name on it. My classmates devoured me greedily with their eyes. It felt like even the writers on the portraits squinted at me in suspicion.
Мое.
В лесу нашли. Там же тракторист, что снег убирал в последний раз, видел Бабурина.
I started blinking in bewilderment. Romka ransacked my school bag. This notebook probably just got lost somewhere in the bushes. The lieutenant knew about the school brawl, but he was aware of the was he aware of the fight in the forest clearing? I had witnesses that could testify to Semyon and I walking in different directions after that. I looked towards the boys, hopeful. Romka, who sat behind Tikhonov, put a finger to his lips. And when the officer quickly turned around, he pretended to pick on his nose. I deciphered his signal. Boys like Romka would probably say something like, "Snitches get stitches" in a situation like this. I frantically fixed my glasses. Wait, Semyon took them away yesterday, but now they're...
Так что ты делал вчера в лесу, Антон?
Я в школу через лес хожу. Могла выпасть легко.
Easily, just like me producing this half-truth.
Будь осторожнее.
Before I could realise, whether it was a genuine piece of advice or a veiled threat, the teacher said,
Класс. А сейчас лейтенант расскажет о правилах, которые вам необходимо соблюдать.
Так маньяк все-таки есть.
Пока мы ничего вам сказать не можем.
Ronka swayed in his chair and gave me a thumbs up. Attaboy, good job keeping your trap shut. I nodded even though I didn't feel a shred of pride from his praise. After all, he was the one who threw my notebooks and textbooks into the snow. He was the one ordering Semyon despite changing his allegiance later.
Но есть преступник или нет, вы должны четко помнить о собственной безопасности. Вас бережет милиция, вас опекают родители и учителя. Но в первую очередь защищать себя должны вы сами. Итак, кто там что хотел узнать?
A stockade of arms rose from the desk. If I pronounce any words wrong, do forgive me. The kids shouted over each other, swarming the policeman with questions. In an attempt to calm down that chorus, he moved toward the blackboard. The grey file was left lying in front of me. I stared at it, my breathing so ragged that I might have looked like someone who just ran a 100-meter sprint. Beads of sweat rolled down my back.
Ясно.
I looked around the classroom. My classmates were catching officers' every word. Only Romka was saying something to Biasha. Lilia Pavlovna was staring into the window, fighting back yawns. Me.
Объявлять комендантский час, причин пока нет.
Skip or open?
Слишком мало времени прошло с момента исчезновения вашего одноклассника.
Open. Oh! As soon as I touched the folder, Tikhonov lashed at me with his eyes. My hand instinctively moved away, as if that stare actually hurt. The officer just kept staring at me without saying a word, making me squirm under the weight of his uncomfortable silence and the sneering looks of my classmates. And then he suddenly continued his speech as if nothing ever happened.
Мы все уверены, что он найдется живым и здоровым.
Can we not save?
Но сразу после уроков.
Ah, we had to wait for him to turn away. Nobody paid me any mind, so I slowly opened the file. Let me do a save. Right. My fingers started sifting through the documents. Ksenia Telalevya, 6 years old, left her home sometime in December. Identifying features, okay. My heart almost jumped out from the ribcage. A round-faced girl no older than Olya smiled at me from the photo. The first victim of a serial killer? The first child to disappear in the forest without a trace? I turned another page. Vladimir Matyokhin, 10 years old. Vova was the second. His mitten hanging from the branch, his name called out by desperate adults and repeated by the sneering echo. Lilia Pavlovna coughed, trying to calm down the rowdy students. I yanked my hand away and the file closed.
Теперь поговорим о диких животных. Как известно, в наших лицах водятся волки, медведи, лисы. Людей они боятся и близко не подходят. Но бывают животные бешеные.
One second. Oh, the officer finished his lecture and started searching around with his eyes. I guess there was probably more in that book. Finally, he noticed the folder he left on my desk, put it silently under his arm and went toward the blackboard without looking back.
И еще раз. Если вы заметите в поселке кого-то подозрительного, Неважно, возле школы или на лесной тропинке, сразу сообщайте в милицию. Телефон-то знаете?
02.
Спасибо, ребята.
That's a simple number.
Спасибо, Лилия Павловна.
Спасибо.
И это... Одноклассника вашего мы найдем.
Yeah, right. A thought flashed through my mind. Dig through enough ditches and maybe you'll be able to piece him together. Like Legos. My thoughts turned evil for some reason, and I couldn't control them. I tried to switch to the lieutenant's speech about suspicious individuals. What if I saw the killer before? What if I was a hair's breadth away from them? Suspicious people? How suspicious was the fox girl that wandered in the darkness? A weirdo that always appears out of nowhere and then dissolves into thin air with her riddles and rhymes. Could she really harm the hulking Semyon? Should I tell the officer about her? What if lives of other kids depend on this? Of the cute Ksenia and Vova too. Wait, what if I get mocked for speaking out? What if they'll start whispering behind my back? Or what's even worse, think that I'm insane? I mean, standing up to say, hey, I've seen this girl dressed as a fox who hangs around the forest. I have a mighty suspicion that maybe she did it. Ronka gave me a stern look over the shoulder. I doubt someone like him would approve of cooperating with the police. Katya's braid dangled nervously behind the delinquent sitting in front of me. My hand was glued to the desk.
До свидания, лейтенант.
Tikhonov was saying goodbye to Lilia Pavlovna. He was about to leave. It'll be too late soon. Stay silent or tell him. What do you think we should do? Should we tell him about the fox, or shall we keep quiet? I mean, if I was to tell him, I would wait until the classroom leaves completely, and then I would probably just pull him aside and be like, hey, I got something to say. That's a tough one. Stay silent or tell him. I mean, Romka's given me that look, so... Shall we tell him? I mean, he's at risk of being humiliated more than enough. So people would start to think he's crazy. Oh, this is a tough one. I mean, we don't really fully know anything about her. And we're kind of just, we've kind of got, like, evidence with, like, the kids that are missing and everything. So, I think we're going to stay silent until we find out more. No way. I've had enough of humiliation. I'll keep my head down, like a bunny. I locked my fingers and zipped my mouth. Quiet as a mouse. The bell rang. Lilia Pavlovna passed by without looking my way. Polina left after her. My classmates went silent at the same time, as if someone muted the sound on the TV. I mean, I do go through the other choices as well, so I always go back to my saves. So we can see what happens if we do tell the cop anyway. My classmates went silent at the same time, as if someone muted the sound on the TV. They followed me with their eyes the whole time I was passing between the rows. Judgmental looks. I felt like I was in the scopes of many sniper rifles. I squeezed through the barricade made of desks looking for Polina, but instead I stumbled into my new buddies. Rumka and Biasha were waiting for me at the notice board.
Я в тебе не ошибся, Тошек. Пацан, не спалил, как мы чуть было свинью не забили.
Это повело бы милицию по ложному следу. Наверное. А вы точно не имеете отношения к исчезновению Семена?
Мы-то нет, а вот ты.
I like the music.
Помнишь, как срулил от нас в потемках?
Oh,
Ага, я так и говорю. Очкарик, дверь! Тебя жирного нагонит и кокнет на!
Базаришь.
so that's what happened.
Однако мы тебе верим, а ты нам.
Rumka's stern look made me uncomfortable, so I nodded.
Вот ты славно.
Abidas. Love it. Rumka lowered his voice and looked around the corridor in suspicion. The other kids were stealing glances at us, whispering.
Что ж, Сёма пропал, это правда. Как и факт, что не просто пропал, а скорее всего уже сдох.
Biasha shuddered.
А ты почем знаешь?
Так мы за это уже терли. Здесь такие случаи не впервой. Думаешь, Сенечка, Вова этот и Сёма в Нарнию попали? Посидят в лесу с карамелькой за щекой и назад пришлепают. Ясно же, кто их к себе прибрал.
Неужели черный?
Маничела! Бля, буду пацаны! Это все местное Чикатило.
Chikatilo. Let's see who that is. Andrei Chikatilo, a Soviet serial killer and cannibal. At least he'd killed at least 43 people, mostly women and children. He was later deemed legally sane and sentenced to death by firing squad. Goodness.
Вычислить бы еще, кто он такой.
Ну, если этот убийца Бабурина завалил, он и по нашу душу явится, отвечаю.
Что же делать?
Вместе держаться, вот что. Втроем мы, как Вольтрон.
Voltron. You're gonna take your dog out. Okay, that's fine. Thank you for the look. Voltron, an anime series about 5 teenagers that pilot robot lions that can fuse into a single mega robot to protect the universe from the forces of evil. It was aired in Russia during the 1990s on Channel 2. That's really cool.
Это... В Вольтроне их 5 было-то.
Ну, считай, мы покалеченный Вольтрон.
He looked at me with an adult gaze and nodded. His eyes were full of worry and sadness.
Ладно, раз Сёмы больше нет, айда с нами. Дело одно есть. Постоишь для вида, покараулишь. Тебя, кажется, уже боятся все.
Scared shitless? Of me? While I still couldn't wrap all that around my head, their attitudes softened me up, and I agreed on the spot. I followed Romka and Biasha through the twilight corridors of our school, savouring my newfound brazenness. We walked pompously, like heroes of some criminal drama, as if the three of us had access to some knowledge hidden from everybody else. I'm not sure I would have gone with them if they told me what the goal of our campaign was. We hid in the darkness near the school gym, and my companions started rubbing their knuckles watching boys leave the dressing room. Finally, Biasha pointed at someone inside the crowd.
Вон этот лох!
Romka smiled dangerously and proclaimed in a low voice.
Стой на стрёме, и если кто изучил, как объявится, дай знать.
Oh, they're not gonna bully him, are they?
Гляди в 4 глаза.
Oh no.
Давай, давай!
I stood at the corner filled with conflicting feelings and thoughts. In a cul-de-sac behind me, Romka was having a back and forth with some 5th grader. The boy was protesting on the verge of tears, but Romka stood his ground, spewing countless obscenities at him, with Biasha occasionally adding a couple of words of his own. Would Dad praise me for involving myself with this? My new friends came out of the cul-de-sac. A light bulb illuminated the camera in Romka's hands.
Ого, полароид. Он твой?
Romka shook the black electronics marvel with a retractable flash, disinterested.
Теперь мой. Мне тут один должник велик торчал за свой гнилой базар. Но, говорит, нет у него велосипеда. Вот и расплатился фотиком. А мне он, честно говоря, в хер не впился.
I can take it. I felt bad for that boy, but all of the negative thoughts disappeared when I looked at the treasured camera. I could clearly imagine how happy Oya would be with this Polaroid. I imagined myself taking pictures of my sister, Dad and Mom. The faces of my family would gradually appear on the hard paper as if emerging from the dissolving mist. I'd take pictures of Paulina too. That way I'd be able to get her photo for myself. I'd keep it in my desk, under lock and
А раз он
key.
тебе не нужен, можешь мне его отдать?
Bit weird. Roma measured me with a sharp glare, turning into the Romka I'd met yesterday. The callous leader of a carnivorous pack.
Ты извини, братан, но я вещами просто так не разбрасываюсь. Могу в ломбард загнать, ну или разыграть во что-нибудь.
For some reason, as soon as he mentioned the game, I remembered Alisa. I looked at the Polaroid.
Ну давай с тобой на него сыграем. Только во что?
Biasha snickered into his fist.
Чаром! Снимем с нас вантовки последние штаны.
Я тебе что, пидор с пацанов штаны снимать?
Romka stared at me from above.
На что играть собрался? У тебя хоть бабки есть?
Во-во! Свети карманы, тофель.
Oh dear. The tables have turned. I slowly turned the pockets of my pants inside out in vain hopes of salvaging at least some change from my lunch money. Something rustled in my pocket. Excuse me. I fished out the Mercedes-Benz insert I got thanks to Alisa. Ah, I guess I shoved it there without thinking when it flew out of my school bag with all the notebooks.
А на вкладыше играете?
Biasha's eyes almost popped out of their sockets as soon as I brought the car's picture closer, but Romka didn't move a muscle, excuse me.
Хочешь, чтобы я целый фотик за какой-то там фантик отдал?
Это...
Да жвачки это рубль цена, а в полароиде кассета еще целая.
Да это да!
Ой, у меня таких вкладышей жопой жуй, на кой мне еще?
Мерседес-Бенц, на! Его-то нам и не хватало, Робert!
Фу, блин.
Romka spit on the ground and slapped Biasha over the back of the head.
Ну ты и трепло, братка. Теперь он за него цену до небес взвинтит.
Just like I suspected, this automobile was a valuable addition for every turbo gun collector.
Ага, значит, появился интерес? Так во что будем играть?
Подкидного!
В ножички?
In the blink of an eye, a greasy deck of most likely marked cards appeared in Biasha's hands, and Romka masterfully swung his butterfly knife like in front of my nose. I had no desire to play by the rules.
А давайте в камень-ножницы.
О, а ты у нас любишь
Oh god,
рисковать.
I feel like this is going to be a choice.
Ну что, мой полароид против твоего Мерса?
По рукам.
I feel like I'm going to have to save. Oh god, we do have to pick. Ah! Yes!
Есть!
I raised my fist toward the ceiling in triumph.
Стопэ. У нас принято до 3 побед играть.
Best of 5?
А раньше сказать.
Ты думал, все так просто будет, да?
Не пойму, чё ты хмуришься так? Один раз уже выиграл, преимущество на твоей стороне. Давай-ка продолжим. 1, 2, 3!
Oh no. Oh my god. Ah, dang. Okay. Yes! So then he'll want to go for paper. Yes! I know how this game works. Yes! I know how rock, paper, scissors works. I looked at my opponent with suspicion.
Ну, я выиграл. Или теперь мне нужно еще и Бяшу обыграть?
Oh, they don't look happy. Romka mumbled something under his breath. He'd probably refuse to play by the rules and I'll be left with nothing.
Эй, Ромыч, все по чесноку-на.
Romka reluctantly gave up. I'm so happy about that.
Везучий ты, сука. Держи. Только писюн свой не фоткай.
I weighed the Polaroid on my palms and realised that I was smirking like a true winner. I almost said like a true wiener. It's been 7 days since the lieutenant visited our class. At first glance, everything was still the same. God, I love the art style of their house. The forest still held out its gnarly claws toward the village, and the wind whipped up white flags weaved from powdery snow every night. When my parents argued in the other room, I would turn up the TV's volume to silence their muffled voices and sit close to Olya. Vova's and Semyon's photos were still 2 black spots on the notice board, and round-faced Senya hasn't returned home too. But something did change. I could see how different the looks of my classmates were. They made my pockets bulge with gifted apples. The animosity was gone, school wasn't scary anymore. But most importantly, a shadow slid across my desk, leaving behind a mysterious note. I glanced into the space between rows, but the messenger was already nowhere to be found. Who sent me this note? What could this carefully ripped out and neatly folded piece of paper be hiding from me? More threats and humiliation? Or... I took the piece of paper and carefully inhaled the wafting aroma. Blackberry. I'll be waiting at a cul-de-sac near the dressing room. Come alone. Inside was a message in beautiful handwriting and waiting at the dead end near the dressing room. Come alone. Drunk on that sudden call, I immediately started walking, looking over my shoulder from time to time, making sure nobody is following me. I didn't even notice how I almost broke into a run and jumped around the corner. As soon as I did that, I rounded to somebody inside the dark nook. Polina. Like a magic bird, a green notebook glided to my feet. Polina puffed her cheeks in exaggerated anger.
Петров! Да ты совсем зрение потерял.
I fixed my glasses. My nearsightedness wasn't that embarrassing anymore. I bent down and picked up the notebook.
Прости, я так торопился. Ты меня ждала? Что случилось?
Paulina studied me with her eyes and clicked her tongue.
А знаешь, на что ты похож, Антоша? На блюзовую импровизацию.
I blinked in bewilderment.
Это как?
Для меня все люди с чем-то ассоциируются.
И для меня. Но не с музыкой же.
Вот как раз с музыкой. Бывают люди гитарные соло, или барабанный бой, или военный марш, как наша Лилия Павловна. А ты такой задумчивый, таинственный, иногда немного печальный. Ты точно блюз.
А почему импровизация?
А это когда слушатель не догадывается, куда
This
свернет
music is so
мелодия,
nice.
какой темп возьмет.
Of course, some of the things Paulina said went completely over my head, but I couldn't stop looking at her smile, light like a breeze in May, and her eyes deep and blue.
Чтобы распознать в тебе музыку, нужен опыт и вкус. Это не какая-то там эстрада.
Я, наверное, вообще не знаю, что такое этот блюз.
Paulina gasped and frowned, which made her look even more beautiful.
Не произноси при мне такие слова. Я тебе обязательно дам кассету. Раньше мне дедушка из города столько музыки привозил. И джаз, и свинг, и классику. Это он подметил, что у меня склад ума, как у музыканта. Я еще совсем маленькой пыталась на бумаге записать звуки природы. Пение дождя, леса.
Эх, мне бы твои уши.
А мне бы твои глаза.
No. I tensed up, worried that she was making fun of me, but Paulina shook her head.
Да-да, я серьезно. У тебя глаза художника. Смотришь на вещи и фиксируешь их. Я так не умею.
Katya walked past us with her trademark frosty glare. We dove into the shadows trying to escape it.
Теперь понимаешь, почему мы тут прячемся? Вот из-за таких, как она.
А Катька какая мелодия?
Paulina flashed me with a sly smile. Metal?
Скрип несмазанных дверных петель. Знаешь, такой мерзкий дискант.
I giggled, covering my mouth. Katya didn't hear our whispers, but she suddenly glanced over her shoulder, clearly annoyed. A moment later, she sighed and went her way. I remembered about the notebook I was still clutching in my hand. I turned it in my hands. Friends only.
Любопытной Варваре кое-что оторвали.
Прости, это анкета?
Заполнял когда-нибудь?
I lied than I had. In reality, girl classmates from my previous school had never asked me to fill their questionnaires. It was quite upsetting. I mean, it was a girl hobby. You just answer a set of standard questions about your favourite actors and colours, but entrusting someone with such a notebook was the sign of friendship. Maybe something even more, something I only had a vague idea about.
Хочешь, заполни мою?
My heartbeat quickened.
Хочу, спасибо.
Paulina giggled.
А хотя, там же столько секретов. Наверное, лучше тебе не знать, о чем мы, девочки, думаем.
She reached for the notebook, playing with me. I tossed my finding into my free hand. Paulina tried to intercept my move. Her hair briefly touched my face, tickling my nose with its silky locks. I sensed an aroma that immediately filled the whole world, fragrant, alluring, lively. If If only I could picture it, steal it for myself. I felt dizzy, but I gathered myself and spoke in a voice reminiscent of Lieutenant Tikhonov.
Ваша анкета является важнейшей уликой, и я вынужден временно изъять ее для изучения.
Polina covered her mouth that rounded in fake horror.
И что мне грозит за сокрытие улик?
Следствие покажет.
Сдаюсь, товарищ милиционер. Только обещайте ничего не читать. Здесь содержатся секретные сведения.
Боюсь, что мне все-таки придется выяснить, не влюблен ли кто в гражданина Петрова.
Polina burst out laughing and pressed herself against my chest, showering me with the aroma of her hair and her milky skin that looked almost transparent, with tiny threads of veins running under it. Her whisper was hot, like a piece of butter sizzling on a pan.
Тогда поклянитесь, что не станете разглашать информацию.
Честная милицейская.
А теперь, Антоша, самое время поторопиться.
That was cute. I took out the notebook during class. With utmost care, as if it was some sort of fragile treasure. Skimmed through it, reading into other people's preferences. I was quite surprised to discover Romka's jerky handwriting inside. His letters bulged out of the cells as if embarrassed by their shapelessness. Roma, Piativan, 6B, Shafutsky, February. Curious what these are. Fearsome Romka found time for something so silly. I chuckled into my fist after I found out that Romka's favourite cartoon is not even Darkwing Duck, but DuckTales. Somewhere in the distance, a teacher was reciting pieces of Andreev's Snapper. I paid them no mind. Polina's page was decorated with flower drawings and clippings from the Cool Girl magazine. Her favourite musician is Schubert. Her best friend is her grandpa. Her hobby is not violin like I expected, but a much more mysterious listening. Can such a mundane process really be someone's hobby? I looked at Polina over the heads of other students. She was focused on taking notes. I flipped the pages until I found a blank one and armed myself with a pen. Anton Petrov, Class 6B. I took a long time to decide on my favourite musician until a trendy pop band Carman came to mind with the cool dancers in their music videos. Carman, a Soviet and Russian techno-pop band most popular from the late 80s to early 90s, founded by Bogdan Titomir and Sergei Lemok. It is mostly remembered for unique dancing performances and for writing a music theme from the Captain Pronin cartoon. Favourite holiday? This one's easy. New Year's. Not Halloween. My hobby is drawing. My dream? Going to Disneyland, I guess. Same. I've always wanted to go there as a kid, and I never ever got the chance to. We almost did at one point, and I still haven't been. My hero. My hand moved on its own, writing da. I stopped on those two letters. What if those who read this after me will find my answer laughable and stupid? After thinking for a bit, I decided that not everything should be disclosed on paper. That's how da turned into Spider-Man. The spelling was wrong, but who cares? Spider-Man. Your biggest fear, huh? I mean, you could always correct it and just sneak in the E. I immediately wrote, losing a person who's dear to me. Oh no. Your phone number? No secret here. 30395. Your favorite cartoon. Transformers. Robots in disguise. Your best friend. I hesitated, gnawing on the pen's cap. I remembered Alisa, gliding down the trees, laughing enthusiastically from the shadows. I hadn't seen her in a week, and it even made me worried. After all, she was the one who stopped the colossus of a monster that wanders the forest in the night from tearing me to bits. I mentioned a masked girl to Rumka and Biasha before, but they just gave me weird looks. I wonder what she's up to right now. Your best friend, I read the question out loud. It was easy, but at the same time, very important. Right, Olya, right, your little sister. My answer consisted of 3 letters, and I filled them in the cells with care. You. Aww. You, I repeated when running out of the school. That's nice. Refreshing frosty air made my cheeks turn beet red. It was bright outside and the sun looked like a whole egg yolk. The road looked as if it was silvered. The snow sparkled under the sunlight. I smiled, squinting from the blinding whiteness. There was also something magical in my chest that beckoned me. Because friendship can grow into something bigger. Hi Drake, how's it going? I swallowed my smile and turned red.
Да так, анекдот вспомнил.
The North Fake. Biasha was shuffling his feet in the middle of the yard, his boots restless on the ice.
Ну, делись тогда.
Oh god. I rummaged through my memory and blurted out a random joke I'd heard today in the cafeteria.
Кощей вышел на крыльцо почесать себе сундук, зайца, утку и яйцо.
Yes, Petrosian.
Petrosian. Oh my god. I wasn't expecting that, didn't. A Soviet and Russian stand-up comic. Colloquially known as the king of humorous remakes and dad jokes. Hey, dad jokes are great.
Ну, идем на.
I mean... honestly, like, dad jokes really are the best. The one that pops into my mind right now is, patient wakes up at the hospital and he says to the doctor in Rory, Doctor, I can't feel my legs. And the doctor responds, I know, I amputated your arms. It's so stupid, but it's so funny. He walked toward the school's corner without waiting for me. I hesitantly tagged along.
А куда?
It's going alright so far, that's great to hear.
Идем.
Excuse me, sorry.
Мы теперь в одной связке и действуем заодно. Помощь
Okay.
твоя нужна в кое-каком дельце.
You'll need to help us with some small business. I don't like that I'm with these guys. Like, we're getting up to no good and it's just not right. I felt chills run all over my body. I didn't like the sound of that small business. Those words, accompanied by spitting, normally hid very dark deeds underneath them. Strangers that used to call our old apartment used to say, "Get your old man, we have a small business to discuss." Biasha turned around. He looked like an astronaut in this tight hood. If I were to imagine him as a sound, he'd be a deafening whistle, a signal given by someone who stands watch. My knees started shaking as soon as I thought that I was about to be dragged into something shady. Jesus. That made my heart jump a little there. Images flashed before my eyes. Tikhonov's strict gaze as he shuts the prison cell door on me, my father hitting the bars in anger, Mum and Olya crying nearby. To my demise, there was nobody at the backyard. Just need to turn it up a little bit. Apart from the grim-faced Rumka. He stood there, his feet wide apart, with his right hand hidden behind his back. Oh no. He must be holding a knife, the steel butterfly of death that flies toward a person's heartbeat. Rumka's dry lips were tightly pursed. He kept shooting glances at me as he looked around. What's going on? It was as if Rumka read and announced my thoughts.
Что происходит?
Oh god, I just felt a cold just then. Oh, I just felt a breeze.
Ничего, проветриваемся на.
Biasha's voice sounded nasty, snarky.
Проветривайся в другом месте.
А мне и здесь нормально. Да, куколка?
Baby? Baby? Is he talking to me? I was so bewildered I wasn't able to squeeze out a single sound in reply. I just watched the bizarre scene played out in front of me by my new problematic friends.
Видишь? Ты ее напугал!
А тебе какая забота, говнюк? Вали, пока целно.
I was trying to digest what I just heard. Did Biasha really call Rumka a shithead? Is he out of his mind?
Пацаны,
Biasha ignored my weak protests and stepped towards Rama, swung at him in a weird comical manner. Rumka blocked the punch with his free hand, keeping his right hand behind his back. Even actors in Indian films that my mum loves fight more convincingly. Biasha started weeping even though I hadn't seen Rumka hitting him.
Ай-яй-яй-яй-яй-яй, больно как! У меня сотрясение мозга!
Why are they doing this? Rumka kicked him in the knee and Biasha fell to the ground, sighing and moaning. That's a Family Guy reference, I love that. And I stared at the approaching Rumka without blinking. His elbow was twitching and his hand crawled from behind his back. I grew roots into the asphalt. A blade will shine in front of me. Here it comes. Rumka yanked his hand from behind his back. My teeth chattered from fear. A bouquet of snowdrops that appeared out of nowhere in this freezing weather swayed in front of my face. What's this? Flowers?
Позволь проводить тебя. А то, сама знаешь, шастают тут всякие маньяки.
Ну а тёна, бедным маньякам уже и посасать нельзя.
Эх, хреновый из тебя маньяк, Бяшка. Даже Тоха не повелся. А она нас в 2 счета раскусит.
Words finally returned to me.
она? Кто она? Что тут творится?
Rumka snorted, blowing snowflakes off the flowers.
Да, маленькая репетиция, братан. Хотели на твою реакцию посмотреть.
Biasha stood up and brushed himself off.
Да Румыч в тёлку одну втюрился. Вон откуда-то цветы нарыл-на.
Пасть заткни! Я так, планирую подкатить слегка. Разыграть представление, а то она неприступная, мать её за ногу. Типа гуляет девочка себе, а к ней докапывается такое вот говно.
Biasha grumbled, upset.
Сам ты говно!
Ну и я такой ее раз и спасаю. Но чё-то Бяш совсем бездарный актер. Давай-ка ты маньяком будешь.
Я?
Ну а чё? Как по телеку показывали, маньяки вообще всегда тихие, скромные люди. Вот прям как ты. А благодаря Катькиным сплетням все в школе думают, что именно ты бабурину кокнул. Давай, соглашайся, Тох.
I wonder if this girl is Paulina. I felt relieved. Nothing criminal, just a scene for a girl.
А что делать-то надо?
Ты же видел Бяшино кривляние? Тип, идешь ко мне, борзый такой, можешь разок в печень заехать? А я тебе тип херак и в сугроб.
Ну, давайте попробуем.
Roma livened up.
Отлично. Бяша, меняешь пол. Ты теперь тёлочка. Гуляй.
Biasha started dragging his feet along the schoolyard, grimacing.
Я тёлочка, красивая тёлочка, я гуляю, ла-ла-ла.
Тоха, действуй.
I went toward Rumka, fighting an urge to smile. He hid his hand again and put on a stern expression, a 5-star actor.
Она моя!
Рискни.
And I tried, threw a punch in the direction of my friend. My knuckles barely grazed his leather coat and Rumka suddenly fell. Not from my laughable poke, of course, but because he slipped on ice. Whoops. He plopped on his back with his full weight, without a chance to get his hand out of the way. Petals from the squashed flowers were left on the snow. I rushed to help.
Ой, бля. Да погоди ты, не дергай.
Не сломал?
Roma was carefully working his wrist.
Да не, ушиб вроде.
Лед приложить нужно.
Тебя, мудака, приложить нужно. Об стенку башкой.
Rumka was already laughing as he got up and gathered the flowers.
Да,
I thought
если
he
я
was
так
gonna
при
be
подруге
pissed at
навернусь,
us.
можно будет про нее забыть.
Давай еще раз отрепетируем.
Roma shook his head.
Вечером, как рука пройдет. Не хочу опозориться перед первой скрипкой школы.
Договор...
I stumbled mid-word. A switch flipped in my head. It all made sense now. I knew it. I remembered Rumka constantly sneaking glances at Paulina. I remembered his scrawly handwriting in the questionnaire. Why didn't I study it more in depth? I felt like somebody hit me over the head with a giant hammer, making me sink into the ground. Paulina, she was the main character of this play directed by Rumka. And I landed the role of the third wheel. Oof. I mumbled hesitantly.
Договорились.
Вот это я понимаю, команда Вольтрона.
Ouch.
Один за всех.
И все на одного!
Захлопни. Если вдруг тебе понадобится помощь, Антоха, можешь рассчитывать на меня. А теперь бывай. Вечером мы к тебе заглянем.
Aww. The aftertaste of horrible water I drank down my meds with lingered in my mouth. My thoughts were focused on Paulina, but the play where I was assigned the role of a villain was also on my mind. I wandered around the house feeling intoxicated and nodded to everything my sister said without trying to discern her words. She's so cute. Oya was talking non-stop, at times lifting her arms and laughing, only to then suddenly go quiet and give me Mum's signature gnarly look. I was yanked out of the prison of my own mind, where seething thoughts pecked at my brain like harpies, stopping me from coming back to reality. I stared back. Oya looked like a mini version of our mum right now. Or to be precise, she looked like the person Mum turned into when we moved here, with her intimidating posture and her eyebrows directed toward the ceiling.
Ты меня не слушал, так?
She tried spitting out those words at me, copying facial expressions of the person she spent almost all of her free time with. For a moment, I felt like the light Oya exuded all these years waned and wavered in the wind of prolonged changes. Very soon my beautiful princess will turn into the dragon that was once guarding her prison tower, That thought was much scarier to me than any other horror sneaking up to me from the future.
Оля, прости. Ты же не сердишься, правда? Я просто задумался.
I looked around the room, my gaze jumping from one object to another like a hungry beast, trying to find anything that could distract Oya.
А давай в приставку поиграем.
Oya pouted, but there was a spark of interest in her small emerald eyes. The Snow Queen's ice shard inside them started thawing.
А как же второй джойстик? Не работает же. А папе починить некогда.
Можем из пистолета пострелять. В ковбоев или уток. Хочешь?
Ты лучше меня играешь.
Да ладно тебе. Пади целый день тренировалась, пока меня дома не было.
Oya burst out laughing. Her heart was warm once again.
А как ты догадался? Я сейчас знаешь, какая меткая. Считай, уже проиграл.
Не на того напала. Включай скорее.
Oh, little Oya jumped toward the TV set and after flicking the power switch started blindly feeling around the back side of the photon, trying to plug the console's cable into the antenna input. Bruce Lee. Bits of TV shows started flashing on the CRT screen when I armed myself with the remote. Home Alone! When I armed myself with the remote to look for the channel with the sought-after Dendy signal. Something came up. Dendy, an 8-bit gaming console that circulated in the CIS regions of the 90s. It was an unofficial third-generation Famicom or NES clone. Neither Famicom nor NES were ever licensed for the Russian market, so Dendy was the only popular alternative for 8-bit gaming during that time period. Nice.
Что дома интересного происходило?
It was a mundane question for me. I didn't put any actual meaning behind it. But Olya's expression suddenly changed. She lost all of the childish nonchalantness she worked so hard to acquire before.
Оль, что-то случилось?
My sister managed to put the cable in its place and started brushing off her dust-covered hand. She was clearly looking for the courage to continue the conversation.
Мама.
Olya went silent, and for a moment I thought I saw tears welling up in her eyes.
У нее опять был этот страшный.
My sister looked at me with wet eyes.
Приступ.
Oh no. This had happened before, but it was a rare occasion. Now that we'd moved to this godforsaken place, Mum's fits rose in frequency.
Принес большую рыбу. Она в газету была завернута и пахла так. А мама опять начала злиться.
Sorry, I got hair in front of my face. Olya squirmed, looking fearfully out of the window.
Они начали громко ругаться.
I froze, imagining my little sister so small and unnoticeable standing in the kitchen doorway. She wasn't even trying to hide. Our parents just paid her no mind at all.
И потом мама ударила. Вот так.
Olya slightly moved her fist downward, imitating a strike.
Прыгай. Она была живая тоже. Ей было больно. А мама...
It was easy to imagine what happened next. The writhing fish with a blade between its fins squirted some foul-smelling musk into Mum's face. Whenever death got this close to my mum, be it when a person was hit by a bus in front of us and their blood was smeared all over the windshield. Or when Grandma chopped off a chicken's head, Mum would always get into a weird, dreadful fit. Oh God. Her eyes would roll out, flashing morning. Her eyes would roll over, she would fall on her face like a freshly cut tree and started writhing just like that agonizing fish, turning over chairs and blurting out bits of scary sentences.
Папа, он ей помог?
God. Olya shuddered, as if just remembering it pained her. I'm sorry about the flashing, by the way.
Он засмеялся тоже.
He started laughing?
Так страшно, когда увидел, что маме плохо. А потом вдруг заплакал.
Jesus. Olya's story made me raise an eyebrow. It seemed like the forest's oozing madness had not only completely consumed our mom, but also infected our strong and courageous dad. Aww. I quickly stepped toward Olya and locked her in a tight embrace, sorry. She dug her face into my chest, and I could feel my shirt becoming wet.
Зачем они так издеваются друг над другом тоже? Они сумасшедшие.
I stuttered, unable to justify the actions of our parents. I had run out of words, and all I could do was hug Olya even tighter. Jesus! Oh, Jesus Christ! Olya screamed and hid behind me.
Переключи скорей!
As soon as nothing happened, I was like, what is gonna happen? No matter how many times she saw this intro, she would always react the same, just like when she saw that owl. I mean, I also got goosebumps every time this ghastly face appeared on the screen, so I immediately complied with my sister's request. Does that really happen? Vid, a TV company logo depicting a ceramic head of the Chinese philosopher Guo Zhang with a three-legged toad on top of his head. It instilled horror in the whole generation of 90s kids in Russia. See if there's anything else we can do. No? Okay, play. That actually did scare the crap out of me. Finally, the game selection screen showed up for the cartridge that was bundled with the console. God, this feels nostalgic. Too bad most of the names here were just different levels of the same game. I picked up the grey rectangular controller and started looking around the pixel letters to find the familiar English word for duck. No. Background music from the menu soothed Olya's mind, and she asked in a calm voice.
А как твои дела в школе?
Да вот, завел пару друзей, наверное.
Ого, целых двух. Везет.
А ты говоришь, лисичку увидела?
Ага, ее зовут Алиса.
I immediately felt uneasy when my new acquaintance was mentioned.
Откуда ты знаешь? Она так сказала.
Да, когда с мамой мусор ходили выбрасывать. А еще говорила, что спасла тебя.
Спасла?
I remembered my fight with the delinquents in the forest, and that mysterious whisper from the thicket. I remembered the fleeing Semyon and the horned giant towering above me with its outstretched hand. All that time I could feel Lisa's unseen presence, as if she was watching me from behind the crooked trees, a smile stuck to her ginger mask. I shuddered, chasing away this delusion.
А еще она что-нибудь говорила?
Нет. Мама так быстро вернулась. Я ее хотела с лисичкой познакомить, а та уже убежала.
Ты ее не боишься?
А почему я должна бояться? Алиса добрая, такая пушистая и красивая. Не то что сова.
I plugged the light gun into the second controller port, listening to my sister's laughs. Why do I feel like we're probably gonna play? Let's see. Oh my god, are we actually gonna play? Oh! She's playing. Oh my god! And we can turn it off. Ah, that's so cool! Nice. Woo! Oh, this is so cool. I was going easy on you here. Oh my god, this is great. Oh my god. Oh god. I went a bit too fast there. Ah, that was too fast. Got him.
Это ты виноват, что я промазала.
I missed two, don't worry. Final round. Oh my god, they're going too fast now. Ah! Oh my god, I missed him. It's a draw. Ah.
Антон! Антон!
My mum only managed to get through to me on her third attempt.
Антон, тебя к телефону! Девушка какая-то!
Ooh. I sobered up in an instant and rushed to the hallway.
Не споткнись, смотри.
I grabbed the phone, pressed it into my chest, looking at my mom. She shrugged and went into the room, gathering the toys thrown around by Olya as she went.
Алло?
У твоей мамы такой молодой голос.
А, ну да. Она сама молодая.
Не мешаю?
I'm enjoying this a lot right now. It's great.
Нет, что ты.
If only she knew how costly this conversation could be for me, what risks I took on just answering this call. There were a pen and a shabby notepad lying on the nightstand. I picked them up and started moving the tip of the pen across paper, producing chaotic doodles that always end up turning into hearts.
Я прочла твои ответы. А тебе действительно Кармен нравится?
Мне, если по правде, русский рок больше нравится. Но я почему-то постеснялся это написать.
А хочешь, Антоша, и я честной буду?
Конечно.
My pen drew an outline of a girl's face, her eyes, her long eyelashes. Paulina spoke in a hushed voice, probably to keep her grandma from hearing.
Мне здесь ужасно тоскливо.
Дома?
В поселке. Здесь никогда ничего не происходит. А если происходит, то всякая гадость. И дело даже не в пропавших детях. Здесь музыки мало.
Но у тебя же кассеты есть.
Я не про записи. Я про... ну, голос этого места. Он не мелодичный. Все шуршит, как патефонная игла. Скрипит, воет изредка. Тут неуютно. Тесно очень. Не знаю, как объяснить тебе.
My pen's tip drafted a house surrounded by tall trees.
Кажется, я тебя понимаю. Моя сестренка говорит, что чувствует себя заточенной в темницу.
Вот и я. Я очень люблю дедушку. И бросить его боюсь. Но порой так хочется убежать. Далеко-далеко.
Into the forest, I fought half-heartedly. To run under the falling snowflakes that make your fur white and the branches that hide you from prying eyes.
Я, когда рисую, будто путешествую.
У меня так же со скрипкой. Убегаю по смычку в небо.
I realised I was drawing a butterfly knife. I crossed it over. Thinking of Rumka ruined my mood. Should I tell her? Should I warn her about his plans to seduce her? I could throw a wrench into those plans. But what about our Voltron team? They may not be my best friends, but we're still buddies. Who would I become if I betrayed them? Polina or Rumka? Honestly, I mean, Rumka, he's not a nice person. I don't know. It makes me think of the second episode for when I went with her in the forest instead. I was trying to remember how he was speaking to her in a way. I don't know. Shall we tell her or shall we not? Because I feel like I want to tell her. I mean, screw Rumka, because he's awful anyway.
Полина?
Oh, I should have saved before making that choice. Oh well.
Да?
Я хочу тебе кое в чем признаться. Ромка попросил меня об одной услуге.
I couldn't force out a sound. Words slipped and fell down my throat. I started wrapping the telephone wire around my finger from nervousness.
Алло, Антош, я тебя плохо слышу.
I breathed out loudly.
Ромка сделал из меня маньяка.
Ringing silence took over the call.
Что?
Он попросил меня напасть на тебя. Как будто я какой-то монстр. А он бы тут же объявился и героически тебя спас. Алло, Полин?
She didn't respond, so I blew into the handset.
Ты согласился?
The tone of her voice became serious, harsh.
Нет, как ты могла подумать? Я ведь сказал тебе правду. А Ромка с Бяшей, после такого они мне больше не товарищи.
Ах, Антон, спасибо. Я так рада, что ты со мной.
My heartbeat quickened. Anxious thoughts about losing Polina passed an imaginary torch to the thrill of meeting her very soon.
Понимаю, как тебе было легко рассказать такое.
Views. Nice.
Слушай, дедушка всегда говорил, что музыка лечит душу. Хочешь, я тебе сыграю?
I mean, she might seem nice now in this third episode. I mean, based on your choices and everything.
Где? В школе?
Нет же, после школы. Придешь завтра ко мне в гости?
I dropped my pen, struggling to believe in what I just heard. Oh. Then I rushed to get it from under the nightstand and rammed my head into it. Oof.
Конечно. Почему бы и нет?
Тогда завтра после уроков, хорошо?
A bump was slowly bubbling up on my forehead, but I almost didn't feel it. The doorbell rang before I could reply. My wandering gaze stumbled upon the door. Oh yeah, we was going to meet them in the evening. Rumka and Biasha came to pick me up for the rehearsal, and I was supposed to help them lure away from the girl I like. I'll have to pretend that I'm on their side, for Polina's sake.
Полин, подожди минутку.
I made a couple of steps and pressed myself into the door. The light bulb hanging on the outside illuminated the porch, and I could discern two short silhouettes through the frozen peephole. Look what the cat dragged in.
Подождите, я сейчас.
I returned to the phone and picked up the handset.
Мне надо бежать.
Мне тоже. Спасибо, что выслушал.
My ear vibrated from the buzzing sounds. I lowered the handset on the phone and snuck a peek at the staircase. My mum, engrossed in her favourite TV show, didn't hear the ringer. I put on my shoes and hat without warning anyone and slipped into the dark winter evening. Good luck, Anton. I blinked, getting used to the twilight. The wind plucked at my cheeks. It carried the cold, resinous smell of coniferous trees from the forest. Freezing air crackled somewhere in the field. Two shadows loomed in front of the gate. I could only recognize them as my classmates because of their height. I walked towards the fence, listening to the howling wind and the squeaking snow. One of the figures moved and slowly glided toward the figure like an ice skater. I slowed down and touched my glasses, trying in vain to adjust my vision to the surrounding darkness. Worry landed on my shoulders like a weightless snowflake. A snake woke up in my belly and started writhing. I felt nauseous. I thought about home, the flimsy fortress behind my back. Mum and Oya were sitting on the second floor of the warm house in front of the TV, watching the adventures of characters in Santa Barbara. I really didn't want to be part of Rumka's plan. And what I wanted even less was going there, to the place where a double shadow was wavering in the wind.
Что да стрёмно. Мы тут замёрзли совсем.
Biasha's voice was trembling and the restless Rumka was letting out clouds of steam. He looked deep in thought and in love.
До костей продрогли. Шевелись! Да иду.
I heaved a deep sigh and walked forward, kicking snow piles. Biasha froze in place, facing the tiger. He was a hand's reach away, and I put my numb wrist on his shoulder for some reason, probably to make sure it wasn't a dream. Okay. A pointy beak was directed at me, strewn with feathers that formed an owl face. Something wearing a bird mask was staring at me.
До самых косточек.
The voice sounded exactly like Biasha's, but there was somebody else hiding behind the feathers in the cardboard. I sprinted away as if somebody whipped me. The masked creature only pretended to be Biasha. They wanted to lure me out. I was running like crazy, drowning in snow. The house in front of me was rapidly growing. The yellow light in its windows granted me hope. My mum and sister are there, my salvation. I couldn't hear anything from behind me, as if nobody was chasing me. Maybe it's because the owls can fly? I was already climbing the porch when I noticed another figure. From the soot black shadow of my house, a scruffy wolf cub crawled out and stood in my way. Its movements were jerky, chaotic, as if it was performing some terrifying dance, or convulsing during a stroke. And even though I could clearly see that the wolf face was a mask, something in this werewolf's convulsions made me freeze in place. The boy in a wolf's costume rubbed his side against the porch post and fell to his knees. He bent his back so hard that I expected his spine to crack. The beast's eyes shone, but he didn't attack. He kept crawling around and running on all fours. I shifted my feet, my mouth agape, trying to keep him in my line of sight. Something was trickling from the slit in the mask. Vicious drops fell to the wooden planks. Saliva. Some unknown force pushed me back, whispering me to save myself. The fence was flashing by at the edge of my vision. I was running, in another direction this time, toward the toothy edge of the forest that smelled of pine. That was another person in a mask. My heartbeat measured time. The wolf boy growled behind my back, as if he forgot his human nature. My right leg got stuck in the snow-laden cavity. I yanked it out, cursing under my breath, and fell to the ground. Plastering snow prevented me from standing up, from propping myself against anything. But my unbound thirst for life helped me get out of that trap. Darkness was creeping closer, like the toxic fumes of burial pyres. I ran again, gasping for air that stung my throat. My hair swayed in the wind. I lost my hat when I fell down, and my ears were now hot from the freezing cold, while most of my body was still sweaty. The field finally ended. After realizing that running into the forest wasn't the smartest decision I could make, I dove into the line of trees. I ran without stopping, my face covered with one of my palms. I didn't want to lose an eye to some random branch. Branches whipped my clothes, pricked my skin like butchers that were herding a pig into the grinder. A knot of roots sprouting from the ground grabbed at my foot. Oh, I ran into the scratchy trunk, slid down to its base, and looked around in a panic. Hey, it's Alisa. My first desire was to dash toward her and hug her. I resisted it and squeezed myself even tighter into the pine.
Что ты здесь делаешь?
Да вот,
She was holding the hat I lost.
в бюро находок подрабатываю. Надевай, а то уши замерзнут, а потом, глядишь, и вовсе отвалятся.
She giggled. I squinted in suspicion and shifted my gaze back and forth between her and the hat, scared that Alisa might be holding a severed head or something even more sinister. But in the end, my hat turned out to be just my hat. Take it. I took it and pulled it over my forehead.
Тепло.
I didn't reply.
Там во дворе были какие-то дети.
И что, покусали тебя, что ли?
Нет.
Why do I get the feeling that Alisa is Paulina and those two may have been the bullies? I could be wrong, they could be somebody completely different. But we'll see, it's just a theory anyway.
А чего же ты убежал?
The answer was obvious, but after rolling the thought on my tongue, I mumbled.
Не знаю.
Эх, обещала не обзывать тебя дурачком. А я обещание исполняю.
She walked up to me and grabbed me by the elbow. I sensed the familiar aroma of mint, oranges, and burnt sparklers. I wanted to lean into Alisa to savour the minute details of her smell. I've noticed there are some misspellings in this novel, but that's fine. I mean, when you're translating something, it can be difficult to do.
Сколько можно повторять? Со мной ты в безопасности.
I mean, they've done a great job anyway, regardless.
Я твой друг. И они.
I quickly turned around toward the place the fox girl was pointing to. Kids in masks appeared at the clearing. At least they looked like kids since they were all pretty short. A wolf boy, an owl girl, and a bear boy. They all huffed and gasped for air, clearly tired from running around.
Я думала, ты в снег провалился. Стало снеговать, нет тебя.
We finally get to meet them.
А я не копал, лень копать было. А ну как получается, если дурак, то бегай да копай. А если умный, подожди, пока другие набегаются, накопаются и устанут.
Oh, his voice made me really uncomfortable.
И уж тогда заводи разговор.
Как я рад! Дегенерат!
А?
Не обращай внимания, он со странностями.
I stood there stupefied, my mouth agape and my hands dangling helplessly. I had no idea how to react to the words of these late-night guests, but I managed to squeeze out something resembling a smile.
Вы просто меня напугали.
They started looking at each other, and somebody even snorted as if I said something funny.
Да, да, Лиса права!
Это он.
Нет, это наш!
Неужели нашли?
Наш зайчик.
Да-да, похож.
The wolf boy started wagging a part of his costume like it was his tail in excitement.
Ну, конечно, ты первый. Это волчик раньше всех почуял зайчика в тебе и рассказал нам.
Здравствуй.
С нашей совушкой ты знаком не понаслышке. Не такая уж она и страшная, правда?
Да, наверное.
А этот улыбчивый бугай — медвежутка. Ты лучше с ним поласковее, а то голову откусит.
Зачем это?
His teeth are very,
Да, смотрю, ты чувство юмора
Yeah.
где-то обронил.
I was still unsure if these peculiar little animals had the best intentions in mind, so I hid my hands behind my back, trying to look away from the gaping holes of their carnival masks. Alisa put her hands to her sides in a theatrical manner, and somehow managed to wink with her fox face.
Когда в следующий раз придем, будем звенеть в колокольчики, чтобы ты не так боялся нашего визита.
Okay.
А у нас разве есть колокольчики?
Чур, я звенеть не буду. У меня лапка болит.
Oh my god. I knew it. It is them. My smile was no longer fake.
О, зубы показал. Это добрый знак.
Ha-ha.
Не ожидала, что сможем тебя рассмешить.
I knew it.
Я думала, это под силу только Диснейленду.
Yep.
Откуда ты знаешь?
Да так, прочитала кое-где.
Про меня?
Про клюв от воробья. Про Диснейленд яхонтовый.
Ты умеешь читать по-человечески?
Зря я, что ли, в школу хожу день ото дня.
And then she sang in a coquettish voice.
Как детей не замечать, как мечты их развенчать. Учат в школе, учат в школе, учат в школе. Крепко-накрепко вломить, с детства слабеньких чморить. Учат в школе, учат в школе, учат в школе.
Bravo! I let out a cautious laugh. My new acquaintances didn't seem scary anymore. On the contrary, they looked friendly and welcoming. There was something about them that attracted me. Just like this clearing, this moon, and the snowflakes that fell backwards, from the ground to the sky as if someone was rewinding a tape. The masked kids got close, and I felt their touch. They gave me friendly taps, felt my clothes as if checking whether I was real. There was no animalistic malice in their touch, only pure childish curiosity. For some reason I thought to myself, I can trust them. Snowflakes just kept on floating upwards.
Никто тебя больше не обидит. Друг.
Пусть только попробую.
The fox gave me a slight tug and burst out laughing.
Ну что, Тоша, убежишь с воплями или с нами пойдешь?
Куда?
На аттракционы!
At that moment, Tiger's deceptive silence was broken by the sound of a distant flute. So, I'm thinking, it's Roma, Biasha, and Paulina, but I'm not sure who the other one may be. Unless it's Katya, or maybe Semyon? I don't know. No, they said the owl was a girl, right? So maybe Katya? We'll find out, I guess. But that's so cool. I knew it was them. Mesmerizing and alluring. It brought about the ring of crystal glass and the whispers of a fresh winter spring. If I had my doubts before, the flute's song shattered the last of them. I started following my new friends before I could even make my decision. Oh, someone was watching in the tree. My legs carried me of their own will, and the tunnels made of pines stepped apart. Bushes bowed in front of our procession. Everything looked dreamlike. Because even the clearing we ended up on, I only saw in my dream. The flute soared up in the treetops like some fantastical bird. The snowflakes floated up in a spiral. The moon painted tree branches with silver. Alisa gasped in amazement. I was also in awe. I tilted my head backwards as far as I could.
Красиво как.
Очень красиво.
Wolfie howled in agreement.
Это мелочи. Я покажу гораздо больше. Если захочешь.
I did want. I wanted to see what the fox girl saw with her eyes, hidden in the semi-dark of her cape. Now I didn't feel weird about these masked kids. I felt weird for being the only one without a mask. I felt like I was naked in the January winds.
Скажите, а зачем вам маски?
I was trembling, but I wasn't scared. My trembling wasn't caused by the cold. It originated from the peculiar anxiousness, the anticipation of something amazing.
А тебе зачем?
I touched my cold cheek.
Но я без маски.
Обожаю человеческие сказки.
Человеческие ласки.
Человеческие дрязги.
Я же говорила. Все жители поселка носят маски. Только скрываются за ними отнюдь не люди.
И даже я?
Ты такой рассеянный, Антон.
Однажды мы уже нашли твои очки.
И шапку. И твое настоящее лицо.
I looked at the mask the fox was holding out to me. The bunny mask that looked like a silver ingot under the moonlight. I was curious to see the world through its slits. Okay. Suddenly, Fighting its way through the flute's melody, a thought came to me. The glasses they found were in Semyon's possession. My new acquaintances must have known what happened to him. Or even worse.
А куда подевался Семен? Что с ним стало? И с остальными детьми?
The bear and the owl looked at each other. The wolf boy curled into a ball, and the fox lowered the pointy nose of her mask.
Тот, кого мы держали в клетке. Тот, кто режет мелко-мелко. Тот, кто носит кожаное лицо, забрал их.
Умел бы я креститься, перекрестился бы.
Хотите сказать, это был человек?
Чем ты только слушал? Разве можно назвать такого, как он, человеком?
Одно слово — взрослый.
В мире взрослых так легко потеряться.
Убийцы, жестокие дрессировщики и равнодушные родители. Лучше об этом вовсе не думать, чтобы не грустить. Не знаю, как вам, а мне печалиться совсем не хочется.
И я сегодня какой-то негрустный. Антон, а ты?
А?
I was lost in thought, staring at the pines, trying to pinpoint the location of the flute. I was sure that the person who played it was standing right behind the piney stockade. Someone tall going over the holes in the flute with their long fingers.
Так что, сядем тосковать или займемся отдыхом?
Алиса хотела что-то показать.
Давай начнем с самой сладкой части программы.
The fox girl took out a handful of candy from her pocket and handed them to each of the kids. Covers shuffled, the smell of pineapple, cocoa and melon wafted through the air. The last treat, a chocolate-covered waffle candy, Alisa put right into my mouth. My tongue was engulfed in spiciness. It felt like my body was covered in fur and small sparks were running along it. I chewed on the waffle and the chocolate, gulped them down, enjoying the vivid taste.
Спасибо.
My gratitude was barely audible because my lips were already touching the insides of a mask. I didn't even notice how I put it against my face. The paper mache was warm, the mask stuck to my skin, giving it a nice prickle. The kind when you dive into a hot bath after being outside in winter, when you lie there and purr from the soapy water.
Говорила же, это твое!
Моё.
Чего стоим? За нас веселиться никто не будет.
И то верно.
The melody kept swirling in the field like a hurricane. I couldn't wait to release the energy, the heat that this enchanting music was filling me with. The owl jumped and disappeared into the sky. I heard her laughter from somewhere above, and then she landed back huffing and sighing.
И ты так можешь. Попробуй.
That was cool. I followed suit. Oh my! My feet tore off from the ground. I flew toward the stars like a rocket and screamed from happiness after seeing my friends down below. This is the first time seeing this in colour. The wind helped me fly. It felt like I was jumping on a huge trampoline. Oh, that is so pretty. The stars looked like vivid sparkles that I could reach and lick up. The moon got closer, and then I plunged. I got scared that I'd break my legs for a moment, but my soles landed softly on the ground, and I regained my balance.
С нами ты в безопасности.
I bet there was drugs in that chocolate.
И все твои мечты станут явью. Я так счастлива наконец обрести тебя. Зайчик!
In a fit of merry laughter, I realised the most important thing: these four are not a threat. My real enemies, and I felt that with every single hair on my mask, were those who knew nothing about magic. Humans from the village. I also realised how alive my surroundings have become. I heard the dry grass under the snow moan. I saw faces of the trees and the stars. The trees were smirking, and the stars were grimacing in fear. Oh my god, that's right, be scared. I'll jump up to you and... I snapped my teeth, then let out a jubilant laugh, jumping up along with the fox. We flew higher than the tallest pines and stayed in the air. I swirled. Alisa followed my rhythm. I knew that she was smiling, so I smiled too. And the flute just kept on playing, carrying us higher and higher.
Ты чё, опять в облака
Not with you around, I thought, trying to unglue my chin from the desk. My muscles felt slightly sore, but that feeling was pleasant. The whole class was wandering about for some reason, whispering and passing notes to each other. Their faces looked like discoloured masks to me, bleak and boring. I yawned, remembering the time I was soaring high above the forest with Alisa by my side, laughing and squeezing my hand. Perhaps, no, probably, it was all just a dream. Because I didn't walk back from the forest, just woke up in my bed on a normal morning with tea and medicine. Still, I was hardly worried about trying to find a rational explanation for my night dance. That feeling of flight was much more important. The knowledge of how it feels to be hanging in the air above the tree tops of majestic pines and baring my teeth at the moon. Someone else has gone missing, haven't they?
Ну чего?
Чё? Пока ты носом клевал, Катька пропала.
Katya's missing. Oh no. My sleepiness was gone in an instant. I frowned in suspicion.
Как пропал? Вроде не может.
No way. Oh. Fur-hooded coat, knitted hat with pom-pom, white scarf, gloves. Flower-shaped brooch on her hat.
Катя!
True Detective 3. Thank you for completing episode 3. Oh, that was amazing. Oh my god. So now Katya's missing too. Oh gosh. Who purchased the game in early access, all the profits will go toward further development of the game. That was amazing. I really like that one. Oh, and there's more of them. That one there. And that one at the end. Oh, that was so good. Oh, wow. Okay. So, shall we now look through the other choices? I realised we never got to use that camera. Never got to use it. So now we're going to tell him. See what happens. I unglued my palm from the tabletop. I need to warn him. At the very least for Olya's sake, to assure her safety in the house near the squeaky pines. I honestly thought the missing poster was going to have Olya on it. I raised my hand, heavy as a dumbbell.
Простите.
Oh god, that's actually really... I felt that. Almost 24 heads turned my way. My teacher, the officer, Polina. Katya shoved an elbow into her friend's side. Sleepy Biasha stretched out his neck. Romka frowned inquiringly.
Я слушаю.
It felt like I was being studied under a microscope.
Вчера утром по дороге в школу я видел незнакомого человека.
My classmate started whispering. Tikhonov frowned, a deep wrinkle adorning the space between his eyebrows.
Да откуда ему знать, чужак это или кто-то из местных? Он же в поселке без году неделя.
The other kids smirked. Katya flashed an evil smile.
Спокойствие. Антон, а сможешь детальнее описать?
Then it dawned on me. I could do more than describe them. What I can do.
Я нарисовать могу. Я рисую немного.
After spitting out this confession, I expected everybody to laugh, but that didn't happen. Even Katya stayed silent. Paulina tilted her head and studied me with an intrigued look on her face. I was pleased by this wave of attention. It made me feel bolder, so I asked.
Нарисовать?
Tikhonov slowly nodded.
Лиль Павловна, мы тут проведем следственный эксперимент, а?
Пожалуйста, пожалуйста.
I took out a pen, flattened out a sheet of paper. My classmates stared at me in anticipation. Paulina smiled, and it was the best reward I could get for my boldness.
Ну что, Ван Гог, рисуй.
Oh! Oh my god! Oh, this is amazing! Oh man. That's so cool. Looks like Batman. Now it's Catwoman. Oh my god, this is great. This is so cool, I like this. Wait, so what if it's different? That looks like a person.
Вот, пожалуйста.
Oh goodness. Van Gogh. I handed my drawing to the officer.
Это что, лиса? Смешно, юморист. Прикажешь ее по лесу с собаками ловить?
It felt like the windows started shaking from everybody's laughter. Even Lilia Pavlovna couldn't help it.
Все не так.
Cheburashka. Cult character created by Edward Uspensky. As one of the main characters in the book, Jane the Crocodile and his friends, he was later featured in a series of cartoons, some which were produced in Japan. Well, we just got humiliated anyway. I was burning at the stake of shame.
Все ясно. Что тут еще скажешь?
Tikhonov crumpled my drawing in his fist.
Ну, занимайтесь.
What if we drew somebody else? I wonder what would happen. He left. Like we just draw somebody random. He left, the bell rang.
Придурочный.
Ugh. I didn't move, just kept staring into space. They're gone. Let's just see what happens.
Вот, пожалуйста.
Handed a drawing to the officer.
И кто это, по-твоему? Лилия Павловна, не узнаете? Случаем не ваш трудовик?
My homeroom teacher squinted, trying to have a close look at my drawing.
Какая отвратительная рожа.
Да это батя Петрова.
Ronka stopped Biasha's thunderous laughter with such a heavy slap across the back of the head that made him bite his tongue. It felt like windows shuddered from all the surrounding laughter.
А ну, цыц!
Lilia Pavlovna hissed at the class and the commotion died down, but I was already burning at the stake of shame.
Все ясно. Что тут еще скажешь?
Oh, so it's all the same thing then. Folded my drawing and threw it into the folder.
Ну, занимайтесь.
He left.
Придурок.
Nut job. So it's all just the same then. Let's see what happens when we lose. Whoops.
Стопэ, стопэ.
А раньше...
Ты думал,
Не пойму, чё... Давай-ка про...
Oh no. We're gonna win them. We're gonna win by accident. Oh no. Oh no.
По рукам.
Okay, okay. Rumka and Biasha started cackling when I lost.
красава, Ромка. Под орех Тосика разделана.
As sad as I was to be left with nothing in the end, I held out the insert to the boys. Dad always said that a card debt is sacred, and it still stood true here, even without the cards.
Чё, Тошик, приуныл? Ладно, давай как другу дам шанс отыграться.
Thought it glitched for a minute.
Играем, скажем, до 3 побед.
Ну ты, Рома, ты щедрый тип.
My friends let out another hyena-like laugh, but then Rumka lifted his fist with a serious look in his eyes. He was raring to go on. Okay, so we need to try and purposefully lose. Yes. Oh, no. Oh no, I'm not trying to win. Ah, shoot. Oh no. This is gonna take a while. So he picked rock, I picked scissors. So then that would make me pick paper, so then he'll go for scissors. I could be wrong. Yeah! So he picks scissors. I would go for rock. Shoot. Okay, so he'd want to pick paper to cover the rock. So I'd go for paper. Yes. Okay, we've lost. We lost on purpose. Easy peasy. Biasha started clapping so hard that the kids walking through the corridor gave us weird looks. I was completely defeated.
Финика ля комедия, Тосик. Гони мертна.
My only proof of Alisa's existence travelled to Rumka through Biasha's hands. Gracious in
вот и
defeat.
вишенка моей коллекции подоспела. Спасибо, Антош. Было приятно иметь с тобой дело.
That's fine. Let's see what happens if we lose against Oya. Or if we turn it off. So we'll let her win this round. And then I'll see what happens when we try to... Actually, let's see if we can try and win. I'm actually curious to see what happens if you do turn it off. I'm gonna feel bad.
Поиграли и будет.
I'm sorry. Meanie. Oh no, I feel awful. I'm so sorry.
Чуря первая!
Oh no. I wanted to get that out of the way because I knew it was going to make her upset. Yes. Yes.
Неситова! Ты ближе к экрану стоял! Я с тобой так больше не играю!
Oh, I'm sorry.
Антон! Антон!
I didn't get an achievement for that?
Антон!
Oh. That's so unfair. Maybe we'll purposely lose. Okay, let's purposefully lose this one then, because this is tough. Yeah.
Ой-ой-ой, умирает зайчик мой! Ты проиграл, Тоша!
I lost, I know. If there was one thing I could change about that second episode is that I wish I didn't do like a long full screen intro. But yeah, I mean, we're going to improve later down the line anyway. But I think I've definitely come far. And I hope I can further down the line, because I enjoy Tiny Bunny so much. I just think it's brilliant. It's well written, the characters are interesting, the scares are good. I just love the art style of it so much, and I love the fact that there's animation of the bunny twitching the nose and blinking. It's so good. And I can see now that there's Alisa, there's the wolf, the owl, and the bear, and presumably Anton. Which it is. I'm looking forward to see what the next episode's going to bring. Like, where's Katya now? Katya's now missing along with Semyon and those two other kids. So I wonder where they could be. It's only a matter of time before we find out.